Hello and welcome to moreveggiesmom.com. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to make zucchini fritters. So I wanted to show you guys my new cutting board. My sister and her husband own Black Forest Custom Carpentry out of Ogden, Utah, and they made this for me. It's got little rubber feet at the bottom to keep it from moving. It's solid wood and it's just beautiful and it works amazingly well. You should definitely check out their Facebook page and their website. It's blackforestcustomcarpentry.com. So for our zucchini fritters today, we're going to start by shredding the zucchinis and some sweet potato. We're going to do 2 large zucchini. It's going to come out to be about 2.5 cups shredded. We're just going to take off the ends here. Today I'm actually going to use my food processor, but you can just use a regular grater. If you're using the regular grater, I suggest leaving this stem end on. It gives you something to hold on to so you can get closer when you're shredding it. But since I'm using my food processor, I'm just going to cut both ends off, and that's ready to go. I also have a sweet potato, which you only need about 1 medium sweet potato. It's going to come out to be about 1.5 cups shredded, but this potato I got was this big. There was nothing any smaller at the store, so I had to cut it down to size. You're going to peel this one, and I did want to show you that when you guys peel, the first layer you're going to get is kind of light, but if you peel again right through that, you're going to get to a darker spot. If you want to get to that darker spot, because if you leave the lighter spot, it's kind of bitter and it's just not as yummy. So shave down to that spot. So I'm going to peel this and then I'll cut it into pieces for my food processor. My sweet potato is in smaller chunks now, so it'll fit into my food processor. I also cut my zucchinis in half because they were a bit bigger than I thought they were. We're just going to go ahead and shred these. If you don't have a food processor, I highly recommend you invest in one. They make that shredding process so much faster. Alright, so we've got all this shredded vegetable here. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons or half a tablespoon to the mix. I'm going to stir that around just a bit. I'm just going to use my hands. You can use a spoon, fork, whatever you want. And then I'm going to put it onto a thin kitchen towel. The best thing to use for this is actually cheesecloth, but I don't have that, so a kitchen towel works too. Let me get this out of your way so you can see. So it's just here in the towel, which I'm going to close up around it and bring it over to my sink. And I'm going to twist it like this and get all of the juice out of there. I'm going to do this the very best I can. And then I'll let it sit for a while I do the other things, and then I'll squeeze it again. I've squeezed that the best I can, and now I'm just letting it sit. I've cleaned up my mess, and I'm going to start adding some things to this bowl here. I have 3/4 cup of garbanzo flour. You can also use almond flour for this if you would like. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 dash of cayenne pepper, 2 eggs. Oh, I got a little shell in there. I'm just going to take a whisk, start stirring that up together. It'll be really kind of clumpy and it's not going to mix well together. We're going to, once we add our vegetables, that'll come together a lot better. I'm just now realizing that I forgot my onion. So, you're also supposed to shred this onion with your zucchini and sweet potato. It's just a small onion. I'm going to have to chop mine now because it didn't go in with the food processor. But you want about 1/3 cup of it shredded, or in this case chopped, which I have found is just this small, half of a small onion. So I'm just going to save that other half there, and I'll chop this one up and add it to my kitchen towel here. I finished chopping that and put it with the rest of my vegetables and gave it another squeeze just because. Really wish that I had teleprompters in my kitchen, but I don't. So mistakes happen, but you guys get the idea. You're smart. All right, back to our bowl here. I'm going to do about a teaspoon of garlic minced. That's about 1 to 2, depending on the size of your garlic. Mine's pretty big, so I only need just the one. And I'll mince this up and add it. For a closer look at this, please look at my how-to videos. I will add this to my bowl. Grab my towel here with all my vegetables and give it another really good squeeze. The salt in there is what helps pull out the juices. So that's why letting it sit there for a bit helps more of it to come out. We'll add that right in here. Make sure for this part you are not using a whisk. Definitely have made that mistake before where I've just left it in the bowl. It's not fun. It may take a little while to stir all this together and get it the consistency that you want it to be. But when you're done, it's all going to come together really well. You're going to be able to mold it. Like you can see as I push it, it's totally moldable. Because we're going to make these into like patties, like fritters. Get a large pan and preheat it to a medium heat, and then add oil. I'm using canola. Add oil to your pan until it completely covers the bottom. So the amount will vary depending on the size of your pan. While we're waiting on that to preheat, I'm going to start slicing some tomatoes because I'm going to serve my fritters with tomatoes, bacon, and fried eggs. You want a little bit of a thicker cut on these, if you're like me, because I'm going to put them in a frying pan. Get them nice and warm. When your oil's ready, you'll see that it starts to shimmer and move. Another way to check is to throw a little bit of flour in there and it'll bubble and sizzle. That means it's ready to go. You do not want it to smoke. That's when you know it's too hot. You need to turn your heat down, remove your pan, and wait for it to cool down. If If you'd like, you can form your fritters beforehand and have them on a plate so that they can go directly into the pan. I find it's quicker for me if I just form them and stick them in one at a time, and then I know exactly which ones I need to flip, and they all take their own turn. So I use a 1/4 cup measuring cup, form them into a patty, flatten it out a little bit. It's about a 1/2 inch thick, and just put it directly into my oil. You don't want them touching because they will stick to one another. I just put them around in a spiral, like I said, so that I can know which one I need to flip, which one's going to cook the first. We're going to do about 2 or 3 minutes on each side. They'll brown, get nice and crispy. If you have a smaller pan, you're going to have to work in batches. This makes about 8 or 9 fritters. So I just flipped those. They're nice and golden brown on the one side. While I'm waiting for them to finish for 2 or 3 minutes on the other side, I've got a skillet out here and I'm going to cook 1/2 pound of bacon. And I've literally took 1 pound and cut it in half so that I have these smaller pieces because I want them to fit on top of my fritters and eggs. I cook my bacon at about 325 degrees, and I only flip them once or twice. I've noticed that that helps them cook more evenly. These fritters are done. I do have a plate here ready with paper towels to put these on. So just pull them out so they look so pretty. Be golden brown on both sides. I'll just pull these all out and then I will get started on my eggs. After I pulled those all out of the pan, I turned my attention back to my bacon and gave them a flip. And they are just about finished here. I'm just getting these last little edges all crunchy because I don't like the soft fat. I like crunchy. And then I'll take those off and put them on a paper towel. I am just going to go ahead and scrape most of the fat off of my skillet here so that I can use it to do my tomatoes. However, I do want to start my eggs first, and the way I do them is a little bit unconventional because I don't like the crispy edges. So if you want to learn how to make a not crispy fried egg, keep watching. I'm going to turn this up to a medium to medium low heat, and I have just this pan that's the size for 2 or 3 eggs. So I got out a lid because I'm going to cover this, and I've got some spray oil here. I'm going to spray, make sure it gets up on the edges. Once it's nice and preheated, you're just going to take your egg and crack it in there. You want it to start cooking the second it hits there. I'm going to cover it up while I wash my hands. Okay, I've washed my hands. I'm going to throw on some salt and a little bit of pepper here. And just keep that closed and let it cook. And you'll start to see it cook over the top. Do this for these fritters is just to do them 3 at a time in this pan because the pan is big enough for 3. And I cover it and have it on a medium-low heat. And you can see the eggs are almost done. Once this one is a little bit more white on top, it's ready to go. And then I will just cut them apart For the tomatoes, like I said, I thick cut them. I've got my skillet preheated here, or my griddle, sorry, and I will put these just directly on there. I just left it at the 325 that I did my bacon on. Now I'm going to give them a little bit of salt and pepper. And give them a couple of minutes on each side just so that they're brown and a little bit soft. But you don't want them falling apart. That's why I said to thick cut them. So here are some completed fritters. I said golden brown before. It's more than golden brown, but you certainly don't want them black and burned. And then here is our completed zucchini fritter with a fried egg, tomato, and bacon. It's so good together. Even your kids will like it. They may pull off and eat the bacon first, but oh, they'll like it.